Welcome to a new week of people, power, and politics on Detroit's only nightly political talk show. I'm Roop Raj. Whether you're watching us live or watching this online or on DVR later, as many of you do, we want to thank you for trusting us to bring you unbiased political news every night. It's a promise that we take seriously. Now, there's a new commercial in the race for Senate between Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin and former Congressman and U.S. Ambassador Mike Rogers. It's getting a lot of buzz, but part of it is because it's not based in facts. So we're going to do a reality check, as we do on both sides, for the Democrats and Republicans coming up. And misinformation warfare. Deep fakes are getting even harder to pick out sometimes, and bad actors are using artificial intelligence to manipulate your impression and then, in turn, manipulate the votes. The laws California's governor shot down. A game of guess the deep fake and advice from an expert that you know well, coming up in just a few minutes here. And that got us wondering, how well do you think you could spot a deep fake? By the way, I had a chance to moderate this candidate forum for Troy Continuing Education this morning. And as I tell you, when I have my phone with me at events like this and you have an opinion, you may end up on the pulse. Here tonight, a pulse check. Tammy, you're on the pulse. How well can you tell a deep fake on the internet or on Twitter or on any of those sites?
I can't. I have to really research and look at the pictures. Sometimes you can tell they almost look a little cartoony maybe, but it's really hard if you look really quickly without looking and digging in. It's hard.
All right, Ted is on the pulse tonight. Ted, how well are you versed at detecting deep fakes on the internet?
I think I'm pretty good. Got a U.S. history background from college, so I look a lot into what am I seeing when I'm looking at a lot of research into it. They're pretty darn good and tricky, so I think unless you really do the backside on it, it's easy to get faked out.
David, you're on the pulse. How good are you at detecting deep fakes when it comes to politics online?
Honestly, I'd say I'm pretty good. I'm kind of skeptical of a lot of things, so for myself, I scrutinize things more than say maybe the average person, so I'm pretty good at it.
Stephen, you're on the pulse. How much do you trust deep fake detection? Can you tell a deep fake on the internet?
I feel like most of them I can. Some of them are really good, but some of them you can get just like certain signs, like certain distortions that make it kind of easy. But I feel like I kind of grew up with the internet, so it's easy for me to tell versus like an older person. I think it might be more difficult for them to recognize a deep fake.
I was out there at 10 a.m. and usually, I'm up doing this 11:30 p.m. talk show, so needed lots of coffee, but I really appreciate everyone who talked to me after the forum was over out there in Troy. We also asked you the question on fox2detroit.com. If you want to weigh in, all you have to do is scan that QR code right there at the bottom right of your screen. And look at that. So far, most of you say you're somewhat confident, 54%, in being able to tell a deep fake. But you know what? You may not even realize how bad we are at this game. And wait till you see what the bad guys have up their sleeves. That's coming up in the next 8 minutes here on The Pulse with our cyber risk expert, David Delajoda. But right now, we have a lot of political news to get to, starting with this. One day before the last scheduled debate in the 2024 presidential election. It's between, of course, these two men who you know, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance and Democrat VP nominee Tim Walz. It'll be hosted by CBS News. And while some of the rules are similar to the presidential ones, there are some key differences. Now, pay attention. This is the most notable one. Microphones will not be turned off when the opponent is speaking. Now, while this increases the chances of back and forth, there's also the chance the two will actually talk over each other. Now, there's this important distinction. CBS says it does reserve the right to cut the mics off if needed. So it's like an alternative mute button. It's not an automatic mute, but if someone goes way over time, they will mute. CBS also says it's up to the candidates, not the moderators, to fact check each other. Now remember, CNN didn't fact-check the first debate between Trump and Biden, but ABC fact-checked several Trump statements of the debate between him and VP Harris, but didn't fact-check any of hers, and they got a lot of criticism for that. Of course, we fact-check both here on The Pulse, and you can go back and watch that episode because I will stick to this. We are equal in the way we fact-check Harris or Trump. And if they're talking about something and it has to do with something that matters to you, we're going to make sure we double check and triple check the facts that they're putting out there. The debate will be an hour and a half with 2 commercial breaks, all right? And there won't be an in-studio audience either. All the questions will be asked by moderators, Nora O'Donnell and Margaret Brennan. Now, Vance and Walz will get 2 minutes each for closing statements. Vance won the virtual coin toss and is going last. The debate starts at 9 p.m. tomorrow night, airing right here on Fox 2. And you better believe it, we'll have an hour of news after that, and then you can see a full reaction and analysis on The Pulse right here on Fox 2. Turning now to the devastation down south after Hurricane Helene swept through. What a mess it is. The two candidates for president both shifting their plans a bit because of this storm. Former President Trump toured parts of Georgia while VP Harris visited FEMA headquarters. 132 people in that area are dead after the storm swept from Florida's Gulf Coast to the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia. And during a briefing today, a White House Homeland Security advisor suggested as many as 600 people right now are still missing. President Biden will travel to North Carolina to survey the damage on Wednesday. And back here in our state, the other race dominating headlines and probably your TV screens when it comes to commercials, those political ads, the race for Senate between Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin and former Congressman and U.S. Ambassador Mike Rogers. Both are trying to replace retiring Senator Debbie Stabenow. And their ads have been fiercely criticizing one another, but what's said isn't always accurate. Take a listen.
I had already had 4 miscarriages, and at 19 weeks, I received the most devastating phone call. All of our options were terrible. My husband and I had to make a decision. Mike Rogers believes he should make that decision.
You've heard me say it on this program before, and I'm going to say it again. We don't protect parties or candidates on the show. We protect the facts. And while that ad is getting a lot of buzz, PolitiFact, the nonpartisan fact-checking site run by the Poynter Institute, rates that claim against Rogers as mostly false. Here's a reality check. While Rogers was in Congress, he did consistently vote for abortion restrictions and even co-sponsored bills that would ban the procedure from the moment of conception. But he's recently changed his tune, even saying in a campaign ad that he respects the will of Michigan voters who passed a measure in 2022 enshrining abortion rights in the Constitution. And he vowed he wouldn't do anything if elected to change that. Now, we've fact-checked Ambassador Rogers on this show, too, throughout this campaign, as well as former President Trump, President Biden, and Vice President Harris. We do it unapologetically, even with the not-so-good mail that we get because of it, because here's the deal. Getting you the facts is the most important thing, so you can make an informed decision this November. And if you see something on TV or online that you'd like us to do a reality check on, we're working for you. All you have to do is send us an email to fox2newsdesk@foxtv.com or just scan the QR code on your screen to auto-launch your email right there on your phone. You can do it as we speak. You can also message us on social media, and we will look into it. Well, turning to the war in the Middle East as tensions keep growing between Israel and the Hezbollah group in Lebanon. An Israeli airstrike killed the group's top leader Friday. And Israeli officials said a ground operation could start in Lebanon. President Biden reiterated his call for a ceasefire at the White House today.
Just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plans?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now. Thank you.
Now, this comes as the Pentagon announces a few thousand U.S. troops are deploying to the Middle East to help boost security and defend Israel if necessary. It would include multiple fighter jet and attack aircraft squadrons. The forces would bring the number of troops in the region to as many as 43,000. Well, turning to the crisis of the border now, and the Biden administration saying it's making its asylum restrictions there even tougher. Democrats are trying to show that they're strong on border security. It is an election issue as well. Now, here's a side-by-side comparison for the restrictions. Before, daily crossings had to average fewer than 1,500 per day for a week before restrictions were actually lifted. Now that average needs to hold for nearly a month. Also, only migrant children from Mexico were counted toward that number under the previous executive order. Under these new restrictions, all children actually count toward that number. The Department of Homeland Security also called on Congress to do more to solve immigration problems when announcing the new rules today. All right, back now to our big story of the night, misinformation warfare. Social media has played a huge role in this election year, and every single election cycle it gets more and more. But now there's another thing voters across the country have to watch out for: artificial intelligence deepfakes. To prove that point, let's play a little game called Spot the Deepfake. You ready? Which photo of former President Donald Trump is real and which one is bogus? Take a close look. They look similar, don't they? Well, if you look closely enough, you'll actually be able to spot the fake pretty easily. This is the fake. This is former President Trump. And if you guessed that the one on the left was the right one, you'd be correct. That one is the actual White House portrait, while the one on the right is artificial intelligence. You can see the eyes, the smile, the fact that the hair actually looks super touched up in this area. But at first glance, if you're just scrolling, you may not see it. And that's the danger of the technology. And that's why many are pushing for laws to help rein it in. In fact, bills that reached California Governor Gavin Newsom's desk would have done just that. But here's the issue. He vetoed them. The bills would have required companies to test their models and publicly share their safety protocols to help make sure they can't be used for things like take down the electrical grid or help build chemical weapons. Newsom says the bills would have hurt the industry by putting in requirements that are simply too rigid. He did, though, sign bills to help protect kids, making it clear that AI-generated child pornography should be illegal. So now you might be asking, what can I do to make sure that I don't get tricked by one of these phony photos or videos? We're putting an expert in the hot seat, David Derajotis. This is The Pulse on Fox 2. All right, back now on The Pulse, looking at everything people, power, and politics, and helping make sure you don't get duped by artificial intelligence. Cyber risk expert with Embroker, David Derajotis, is in the hot seat for us tonight. And by the way, he wrote this book called Building the Human Firewall, and it is a book that is out. Congratulations on the book. And you're probably wondering, if you have a book at home, we don't just put authors on the show. You happen to be a regular on Fox 2 who just happened to write a book. But I find this very interesting because you talk a lot about artificial intelligence in this book. We show those pictures, one of former President Trump that was a fake and one that wasn't. And I guess if you put it on the big screen here in Fox 2 and you really look at it and you say one of these is fake, you can identify it. But if you're just scrolling, not the case. Talk about some of these images we're about to see that are fake.
Yeah, you got it, Roop. I mean, that's the thing. We're consuming content on devices, on small screens, and we're going through it so fast, it can be much harder to point out the nuances. And again, the pictures that I created this morning, I whipped those up fast. I didn't do any additional editing on it. There are things that you can do to touch them up, to make them appear more realistic. There are all sorts of prompts that you can do to bring out high quality. So you have to be very careful. It's easy to scroll past and not catch it.
This is just absolutely insane. So these are pictures that are put together of Donald Trump and Kamala Harris supposedly embracing, when in fact, that's not them. And this could be the most deceiving. But what is it about these that most disturb you? This is them pretending that they're looking at wreckage.
Well, that's exactly. These are things that never took place. I mean, that's the issue. This is an attack on everybody's minds. It's social engineering. It's getting people to think and see things a certain way, sometimes things that never even took place. That's the danger, and that's what's at risk with these types of photos. We're looking at photography and issues and things that are going on that never happened in reality. That's the danger. And once you scroll past it, once you see it, it's hard to go back and fact check and correct. You're already on to the next thing.
So like, for instance, that picture of Mr. Trump looking at the wreckage. He did, in fact, go to Georgia and he's checking out the stuff. But for whatever reason, if someone didn't go and then they placed a picture of them there, it's hard to say and argue with someone who thinks that that's true.
That's exactly it. That's the problem that we all have. We're consuming information so fast. How many people are going back to fact check whether a particular candidate, a celebrity, whomever it may be, did the things that you're seeing in the photo or said the things that you're hearing in a clip or are actually real when you see that video? There is so much content that's being produced. We're consuming it at an incredible rate. If we don't take the time, and I always say this, if we don't take the time, just pause for a moment and take a real hard look at what you're consuming, you can be tricked.
So let's talk about what people at home can do. So if I see an image of something that I question, first of all, you have to be able to question it. Is the best thing to do go to legitimate news sources that you know of and see if it actually happened?
Yeah, I think you should definitely be cross-referencing it with other places that you trust, without question. There are some telltale signs that really stand out traditionally where AI has failed. Now, it is getting a lot better. Things with the fingers, if you hear audio that doesn't quite match with the lips, those are signs that can give away. If you see perfectly airbrushed or faded backgrounds, those are things that can also alert you that, hey, I might be looking at something that's AI generated. But again, these are things that have been corrected. With every new release of the software that we see, they get better and better and better.
So what's interesting to me is, I know you're saying the lips don't always coordinate with the voice, but sometimes you have, political ads where you just hear the politician speaking. So for instance, if I wanted to say that Kamala Harris said something or Trump said something, then I can take their voice and actually engineer a fake narrative. Talk about how easy that is for AI to do.
We don't have to look back very far. The Joe Biden robocalls that took place in the New Hampshire primary election, that was a AI-generated call that used Biden's voice. Using the technology is so easy for everyday people to use because the tools have gotten better, they've gotten simpler, and they've continued to get perfected. I've done that here at Fox too. I've taken some of the anchors and I upload a copy of their voice, the model will study it, and then I type out on the keyboard anything that I want that individual to say.
Yeah, please stop doing that, please. That's good. We're good. We don't need to never do it again. It's scary, right? I mean, it's like, what is going on here? I mean, let me ask you this, though. So we understand, like, when you look at some of the pictures, you can say, okay, the voice doesn't match or the fingers look weird.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing. It's not proportionate rather to the person. What about a voice? What should we be listening for to see if someone actually has a fake voice going?
Yeah, it's consistency. You want to be able to see if the words aren't coming out correctly or if you see differences in pitch and tone from what you're used to. If it's not the same consistency of what you've seen and heard from that individual, those are all significant red flags.
So if it sounds like a Saturday Night Live sketch, you're probably on the wrong track. It's probably a fake interview that someone did. What are some things that you fear as we get closer to Election Day may happen?
Yeah, well, it's a war over people's minds, putting thoughts, skewing opinion, maybe leaning into biases that individuals may have. It's creating false narratives, things that have not taken place, things that people have not said, things that people have not done. I think that's the biggest concern, and it's something we all need to pay close attention to.
Do you think that younger voters, we did the pulse check today out in Troy at that event I was at, and it seemed like the younger people were a lot more savvy than people who are my age or older.
Yeah, I think that may be overconfidence, Root, because again, the tech continues to improve. It improves at a rate unlike any other technology that we've seen or used in the past. These are quantum leaps that are being made with every new release. People may confidently think they can pick out a deep fake, think that they can look at that image and say, that's not accurate. But I think if people actually took a look at image A and image B, and that image was really taking the time to create it in a way that makes sense, it will be very hard for them to pick it up.
Our polls are never scientific here on The Pulse. We're just literally sampling the thousands of people who watch the show and watch our channel, but 54% of the people who were polled in our poll earlier today said, hey, I'm somewhat confident. You're saying if they did a test, they'd probably fail it more often than they thought.
Absolutely, without question. Again, the video, the quality, the image, the lifelike feel that they all have with, whether it's video, if it's audio, if it's an image, I think people will be blown away with the true quality that is producible today.
What scares me about this the most is whether you're a Trump or a Harris supporter, the damage that can be done. As a journalist, it really worries me that what happens if, with 4 days left until the election, someone does something with one of their voices, and now it takes so long to do damage control to say that wasn't us, and the damage is already done.
That's the problem. That's the issue. And I think we talk about the concern with artificial intelligence. It can be used for so many good things. My company uses it for very good things. We use it to 10x capabilities, improve profitability, to make the customer and client experience much better. But
to write a bio for an event that you don't want to go to, that you don't want to write a bio for, right?
That's exactly. It's so good with words. It's so good with understanding text. But again, you put it in the hands of the wrong people, it can be just as bad on the other side of the spectrum.
All right, final advice for the people watching at home. What can they do that we haven't talked about here tonight?
I think it's important to study the images and the videos that you're looking at. Look for those abnormalities, whether it is going to be fingers, if it's going to be abnormal blinking or certain mannerisms. Look at those same things in the voices. Listen to the pitch, to the tone. You may not be able to see it just with the eyes. There's also technology that you can use as well to help detect if something is deepfake generated. So just be aware of where the capabilities are and what you should be doing to prevent that from swaying you.
Good advice. And I will say, as a journalist here, that we care so deeply about the information that you're getting. Check with your favorite news organization, hopefully Fox 2, like literally Google it and say, if you don't see it anywhere on a news source anywhere and you say Biden said this or Trump said this, you're like, wait a minute, he didn't say this. You got to go and stay tuned. And of course, here on this program, we do reality checks every day. Let us know if you have a question. David Darajotis, good to see you. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good to see you. Well, next on The Pulse, we're getting you caught up with some stories you might have missed over the weekend, including battleground rallies by both candidates. You're watching The Pulse here on Fox 2. A quick correction from the last segment. David Derajotis actually works for Flow Specialty now, and they're very proud of the work he's doing. We're glad to have him on the show. A true expert in the field, and we're glad he joined us. All right, so the Pulse takes a break on weekends, but political news never stops. So maybe you were hanging out watching football on TV, ton of good games, unless you're a Spartan fan like me. But that's why we're here to make sure on a Monday you're up to speed with everything that happened on the campaign trail and beyond this weekend. So in case you missed it, Vice President Harris and former President Trump took their campaigns to battleground states this weekend. Harris was in Las Vegas pushing for voters in the swing state of Nevada, while Trump held rallies in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Let's take you to the Sin City first, where Harris touched on a topic that's a weakness for her and Democrats, the border. Harris made this pledge to the people attending the rally.
As president, I will double the resources for the Department of Justice to go after those transnational cartels and take action to stop the flow of fentanyl coming into our country, which is destroying entire communities. These are serious problems, and we know Donald Trump won't solve them.
More on the border in a second, but to the Trump side of things, where Trump hit Vice President Harris on an issue she's changed her position on, fracking, and says the push for clean energy will hurt the state of Pennsylvania and the country.
Her whole life, you will never frack, never frack. There will be no petroleum product. We're going to go to wind. Everything's going to be wind. Wind. Even if it's not windy, then we'll suffer for a couple of days. Well, about 90% of the year. We're going to wind. We're going to lots of different things. They haven't worked anywhere else in the world, but we're going anywhere.
Now, Harris's running mate, Tim Walz, was in Michigan, taking in the Michigan-Minnesota game and talking to students. Though as governor of Minnesota, I'm sure he wasn't too thrilled with the outcome of that game. In case you missed it, Michigan won 27-24. Before Harris was in Nevada, she was in Arizona visiting the border, which we've told you is a weakness for her campaign, and now she's leaning into it. That was in Douglas, Arizona. Harris made this vow at a campaign event there following her visit.
Those who cross our borders unlawfully will be apprehended and removed and barred from re-entering for 5 years. We will pursue more severe criminal charges against repeat violators. And if someone does not make an asylum request at a legal point of entry and instead crosses our border unlawfully, they will be barred from receiving asylum.
You'll also remember Harris has vowed to make sure the bipartisan border bill that was killed in the Senate back in February passes Congress, and she says she will sign it into law. And finally tonight, some early birthday wishes to a former president. Jimmy Carter turns 100 years old tomorrow. Carter's worked with the Habitat for Humanity for 40 years, so to honor him, a benefit concert. Thousands got together for a Habitat for Humanity build in St. Paul, Minnesota, working on a whopping 30 homes. They want to accomplish this over the next few days. The efforts being led by country music stars Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood. Both of them worked with the Carters for years, starting with projects in the Hurricane Katrina disaster. And from all of us at Fox 2, a very happy birthday to former President Carter, turning 100 years old tomorrow. That is the Pulse on this Monday night. Battleground with SC Cup is next. I'm Rup Raj. We'll see you on Tuesday after the debate.